What is going on, YouTube? So coming back today with my final NBA draft scouting report of the week. So my scouting report week drawn into an end. I already done my NFL ones. Got done with 7, and then I believe this will be 8 total for the NBA draft because I did one before the scouting report week started. So my last one that I did was, I believe, Bryce Johnson, and then the next one will be Dragan Bender, so one of the bigger names there in the draft, probably a top 5 prospect. But like I said, today doing Taurean Prince and get into some of his background information. So he was a 6'8" small forward from Baylor. This is his senior year, so he didn't declare early. 220 pounds from San Antonio, and he has about a 6'11", maybe 7 foot wingspan, probably more around 6'11 and a half. But anyway, move into, we'll actually cover some of his stats from this past year. Averaged around 16 points per game, 6 rebounds, and 2.3 assists. Not a great shooting percentage. Actually saw him have his worst shooting percentage in college at about 43% and 35% from 3. So not great there. But anyway, get into some of his strengths. And first one is above average athleticism and length. So a 7 foot, about 6'11" or 7 foot wingspan for a 3 is a good desired size in the NBA. I believe this is a kid with a pretty good vertical. Let's see if I can find it. Looks like around a 38, 39-inch vertical, and a guy with about an 8'11" standing foot or 8'11" standing reach. And all those are good numbers for length and athleticism, like I said, especially for a wing player, which makes for hopefully at least athleticism and length-wise a good defender in the NBA. So get into his second strength, which is just his outside shooting. So like I said, he saw a dip in numbers for this year, but this is still around a 37% career 3-point shooter from 3 in college, which is still a solid percentage, especially at his size. And even though he saw it dip to about 35% this past year, I think this is a guy that can still be around a 35% 3-point shooter in the NBA, which isn't great, but it's something that can stretch the floor. At least it's something you got to respect. And even as deep too, he can. His pull-up game definitely improved as college went along. Like I said, took hits this past year, but I feel like that was just a byproduct of him having more minutes, and a little bit more pressure on him, and just being a little bit more of a streaky shooter. So get into his next strength, which is when he's on, he can pull up from anywhere in the offensive zone. Like I said, he's a good outside shooter, again, when he's on. And, when he's getting open looks, when, he's not logging too heavy in minutes. And I feel like when he's got some other players that can stretch the floor on offense, when he was playing on Baylor, he really could pull up from anywhere when he wasn't forcing shots and when he wasn't, not feeling it, when he was a little bit inconsistent. But like I said, if he can find that offensive rhythm in the NBA, that's going to be a dangerous thing to have for pretty much any team. Like I said, with that combination of length, athleticism, or at least above average athleticism, and shooting prowess, that's a good combination to have. And his fourth strength, which might be one of his biggest on offense, is he's got a great motor and he's very solid on driving. He's a great slasher. Like, you watch him play, he really does have a very impressive motor going to the rim. The problem for him is he's inconsistent with taking contact. It seems like when he starts working in the paint, and when he's not, especially when he's not feeling it, it seems like the contact becomes a huge problem. He tries way too hard to draw fouls and ends up chucking up some really bad looking shots. But when he finds the open drive, and when he, moves well in the lane and gets inside, it's a dangerous thing to see. He takes contact very well. He maneuvers inside the paint pretty well, and he uses his size to his advantage. And like I said, it's all about finding that offensive rhythm for Taurean Prince. I I like what he was able to do in college, and I think if he can find that in the NBA, he'll be very much worth a first-round pick. Now, next strength is he moves well on defense. He has very good lateral quickness with fast twitch muscles. That's been talked about a little bit. He is very solid on the defensive end of the floor. It's a guy that averaged 1.3 steals this past year with 1.5 steals the year before that. Almost 1 block per game, too, at 6'8". That's pretty good numbers. And then alongside around 6 rebounds per game. And again, something that's not overly impressive, but quality numbers, especially as a 3. So next, and I guess last strength, is his off-ball awareness. He's got very, very good off-ball awareness and basketball IQ on defense. He blocks a lot of passes, draws a lot of turnovers, and really is smart with the way he sticks to his adjacent assignment. And seems like he's a hard guy to beat when he's on the ball, and when he's off the ball, it seems like he's just as aware, just alert, just as ready to go to draw turnovers, and take his defender if he's about, or take the guy he's defending if he's about to get the ball. So that does it for the strengths. Get into some of his weaknesses. First one is he's not a great facilitator. He struggles with careless turnovers at times. He only averaged 2 assists per game. And for a guy that was logging, I wouldn't say extremely heavy minutes. It's probably around average minutes for a guy that is probably the star player of the team. I mean, him and Rico Gathers are probably the 2 biggest names on Baylor. And logging 31 minutes per game isn't, obviously it's not light, but it's not that heavy compared to some other guys in college. I mean, Ben Simmons getting 35, Brandon Ingram getting 37 minutes per game. But anyway, he did average around 2.7 turnovers per game, which is actually a very alarming number. And that was just him being careless with the ball at times. And again, 2.3 assists was his career high for averaging for assists. So he's just not a great facilitator. I'd say that really the only positive that comes from his ability as a passer and as just an offensive creator and facilitator is his ability to find the bigs. And he does look for the bigs just because, it's something that you expect and that you hope for from a forward. But he does possess the awareness and the ability to find bigs on offense when he is able to create a little bit of separation, a little bit of offense. So next weakness is he is inconsistent as a shooter, and that's probably the biggest weakness. He's a really streaky shooter. Like I said, he went from shooting 47% through his sophomore and junior years, and then 37 or around 37.5 and 39.5% through sophomore and junior years at 3-point to 42.8 and then 35%. Again, a little bit of an alarming number, an alarming trend, just to see that jump. Now, I guess if there's anything to console the team that drafts him, his free throw shooting did improve from a measly 62% his junior year to actually a pretty good 77.4% his senior year. So that helps, I guess. Again, streaky shooting is one of the problems, especially when you're a pull-up shooter like he is. But again, I think mainly for him, it's just about finding that offensive rhythm, and I think it's definitely something that he'll be able to do in the NBA, especially if he ends up being a first-round pick. So, third weakness is he struggles in the paint. And that's a big thing because at 6'8", there's been talk about him being able to even play small ball 4 in the NBA. And with his set of consistent interior or lack of set of consistent interior post moves or interior scoring skills, that's definitely not something that's going to be an option for him right now. He was able to play small ball 4 for Baylor a lot because he can get above the rim. When he's in transition, he actually runs pretty well in transition. But I believe he was something like a 50-55% interior scorer this past year, and not a great percentage. One of the scouting reports I was looking at said he was around a 65% interior score his junior year, and that trended down to 55% this year. Again, not a good trend. Brings up, I wouldn't say an enormous red flag, but a pretty big one. And not a trend that you want to see continue, obviously, when you're drafting a guy who's a 6'8" wing and one of his strengths is length. And again, if he can learn how to use that, if he can find that offensive rhythm, then most of these weaknesses will at least be minimized. All right, so that does it for the strengths and weaknesses. So get into is just general NBA projection. when you're talking about stats, this, to me, he really fits in more as a role player than anything else. That's been most of his role in the NBA has been talked about as just actually being a really good role player. Six man, I see him fitting in well as. Honestly, he just seems like the guy that's gonna have a long term career as a role player. I'd say averaging around 6 or 7 points and 4 rebounds his rookie year in the NBA. Last mock draft on NBADraft.net had him going 26 to the 76ers. Again, I think he fits well with any team that needs help at the 3 or the 4. Some of the teams later in the first round, Toronto Raptors, Phoenix Suns would be good fits. They could use some help at that position. I think both those would be good. Like I said, both those would be good fits. And again, both those I can see him having a successful long-term career at. Player comparison, I'd say, is a little bit hard. One player that he kind of reminds me of, at least on the outside, is Tony Snell. Not a great comparison just because of size, but like I said, it's not extremely easy for me to find comparisons for him. But that does it for this video. If you guys have not seen any previous videos that you want to go check out, done some big prospects so far. I believe the last 2 were Bryce Johnson and Tyler Ulis. Both those will be in the outro, as well as the link to the entire scouting report playlist in the description below. Like I said, this was my scouting report week and put up a lot of videos for that. And I believe at this point I've gone through Ivan Rabb, Jaylen Brown, Buddy Hield, Brandon Ingram, Ben Simmons, and the last 2 I just mentioned. Like I said, tomorrow I will be doing Dragan Bender, and then the NFL ones will be coming later as the week goes along. Again, I won't be posting scouting reports as frequently this coming week. So yeah, that's pretty much it. It's of the 7 NBA draft and 7 NFL draft done for the week. Like I said, it is my NFL draft and NBA draft scouting report week, and I said 1 per day, so that's still what you're going to end up getting. So today I will be doing Bryce Johnson. I believe my last one was Tyler